I ran into my ex's mom sitting alone on a blind date, and I asked her, "Would you marry me?" The words shimmered softly. "Blind date, Sector 7, Station Avalon." He let out a long sigh and rubbed his temples. Space diplomacy was difficult. Alien negotiations were even harder, and yet here he was, dressed in a crisp suit and a half-smile, about to meet someone who was supposed to be a perfect match. He had never been good at blind dates. In fact, he avoided them whenever possible. But the station's social director insisted that humans should mingle with other humans occasionally to maintain morale. And after a week of tense alien council meetings, Eli figured a quiet dinner might do him some good. The space station glowed with neon lights and whirring machinery. Floating drones moved like silver fish above him, delivering drinks and tidying tables. Alien patrons of all shapes and sizes filled the dining hall. Some had 6 arms, others eyes that reflected like prisms. Eli had learned long ago to smile and nod politely, to never comment on appearances. He scanned the crowd, searching for his date, but what he saw made him freeze in place. Sitting alone at a round table, sipping a steaming cup of something that smelled faintly like cinnamon, was a woman he knew far too well, Mara Winters, Eli's ex-girlfriend's mother. The last time he had seen her, she had been scolding him over a spilled drink in a tiny cafe back on Earth. Now she looked calm, sophisticated, a little tired maybe, but clearly enjoying her solitude. For a moment, Eli just stared. His mind went blank. How could he have run into her here in the middle of an entire space station? And why was she sitting alone on a blind date? He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. He knew he should just turn around and pretend he didn't notice her, but for some reason he couldn't. He walked toward her table, feeling the stares of nearby aliens, the soft hum of the station's artificial gravity keeping his steps steady. When he reached her, Mara looked up, her eyes widening slightly in surprise. "Eli," she said, a mix of curiosity and caution in her voice. "Hi, Mara," he replied, trying to sound casual though his throat felt dry. "I didn't expect to see you here." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Clearly, but I didn't expect to see you either, on a blind date no less." Eli swallowed. "Right, funny coincidence, huh?" He paused. The tension in the room seemed to thicken, and then, almost without thinking, he blurted out, "So, would you marry me?" Mara blinked. The words hung in the air, absurd and unexpected. For a second, the station seemed to hold its breath. A nearby alien waiter paused mid-step, its 6 arms frozen, and even the soft hum of the drone seemed to fade. Then Mara laughed, a full, genuine laugh that made Eli's chest loosen. "You've lost your mind," she said, still chuckling. "Are you proposing because it's romantic or because you're nervous?" Neither," Eli stammered, rubbing the back of his neck. "I just thought maybe it would break the ice." Mara shook her head, smiling. "Well, it worked. Congratulations, you've broken the ice. But don't think this means I'm saying yes." "Of course," Eli said quickly. "I didn't actually mean it, just conversation starter." They both laughed, and the tension melted into something lighter, friendlier. Eli slid into the empty seat across from her. He noticed the fine lines on her face, the way her hair caught the light, the calm intelligence in her eyes. She was impressive. And yet he felt the old awkwardness between them, the unspoken history, the moments of misunderstanding from the past. "So," Mara said, leaning back, "what brings you to Sector 7? I didn't expect to see a human diplomat here mingling with the locals." Eli shrugged. "Diplomacy, mostly. Negotiations with the Zeathian Council, routine stuff. And you?" "I'm testing the dating scene," she said lightly, as if the words embarrassed her. "It's been a while since I tried anything like this. Thought I'd give it a shot." Eli smiled. "Blind dates in space. That's brave and maybe a little dangerous." Mara laughed again. "Yes, I suppose it is. But isn't everything in space a little dangerous?" The conversation flowed, surprisingly easy. They talked about the station, their pasts, even Eli's failed attempts at cooking alien cuisine. Mara shared stories about her travels, the challenges of raising her daughter, and her fascination with human and alien technology. Eli realized he had never really looked at her as a person, only as the mother of someone he once loved. But now, in this unusual neon-lit setting, he saw her differently, capable, clever, and very human. "Do you always start conversations with proposals?" Mara teased, leaning forward. "Only when it's a good icebreaker," Eli replied with a grin. "I figure, why not aim high?" Mara shook her head, laughing, but the smile in her eyes lingered. "You're impossible." Eli shrugged, pleased that he had made her laugh. "Maybe, but you like it." "Perhaps," she said, "but don't push your luck." Their laughter was interrupted by a sudden, loud alarm. Red lights flashed across the station and an automated voice announced, "Alert! Alert! Unauthorized vessel detected approaching docking bay. All personnel proceed to safety protocols." Eli's stomach dropped. Mara's eyes widened. Humans weren't the only danger in the universe, and the station had protocols for a reason. "What's happening?" Mara asked, standing quickly. "Not sure," Eli said, already moving toward the nearest exit. "But we need to get to the safety pods, fast." The crowd around them surged, aliens and humans alike moving in organized chaos. Eli grabbed Mara's hand. "Stay close." "Wait, what about my date?" Mara shouted over the noise. "They're alone." "Too risky," Eli shouted back. "We can't stop now." They ran through the station's corridors, the hum of machinery and the red emergency lights reflecting off the metallic walls. Eli's mind raced. He had handled crises before, but never like this, never with someone he knew from his past running beside him. Mara kept pace effortlessly, her calm focus complementing his quick, sometimes reckless decisions. Finally, they reached the safety pods. Eli pressed a button, and a small compartment slid open, just big enough for two humans. He helped Mara inside and sealed the door. The pod jetted away from the main station with a soft whoosh, spinning slightly as it stabilized in orbit. Breathing heavily, Eli looked at Mara. "Well," he said, trying to sound casual despite the adrenaline, "I guess our blind date just turned into a space survival adventure." Mara shook her head, laughing again, but her eyes betrayed a hint of admiration. "You really don't do anything small, do you, Eli?" "Not usually," he admitted with a grin, "but it seems to suit us." For a few moments they floated in silence, watching the station shrink in the distance. Lights blinked across its surface, reflections from explosions or alarms. Eli wasn't sure. But amidst the chaos, he felt something he hadn't in a long time: connection. Real connection. "You know," Mara said quietly, "for someone who just proposed to me, you're surprisingly good in a crisis." Eli chuckled. "Maybe proposals give me courage." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Or maybe humans are just more adaptable than we give them credit for." Eli smiled. That was the first time in years he had felt fully appreciated. Not as a human, not as a diplomat, not as her daughter's ex-boyfriend, but as himself. As the pod drifted further from the station, alarms fading into the background, Eli realized that this unexpected encounter might change more than just the night. Perhaps it would change the way he saw the universe and the people in it. And somehow, despite all the chaos, he found himself thinking, maybe, just maybe, the absurd proposal wasn't such a bad idea after all. The pod floated silently through the empty corridors of space, spinning gently as its stabilization thrusters hummed. Eli Vance pressed his back against the cold metal wall, trying to calm his racing heart. The alarm lights from Station Avalon were now tiny dots in the distance, flickering against the black void. Mara Winters sat opposite him, arms crossed, her calm gaze fixed on the stars beyond the pod's transparent window. "Do you always manage to get yourself into danger like this?" she asked, her voice even but with a hint of amusement. Eli gave a sheepish grin. "Apparently, yes. Some humans have a gift for finding trouble, and I seem to have inherited it." Mara shook her head and laughed softly. "I suppose that makes me unlucky for being with you. Not at all, Eli replied. It makes you part of an adventure. Mara's eyes flicked toward him. Adventure, huh? That's one way to put it. The pod drifted closer to the station's outer ring, where the docking bays lay. Eli knew the security drones would have locked down all entry points. The Zeathians, an aggressive alien faction known for their unpredictable attacks, were likely attempting to capture or destroy something critical. The station's AI had gone into lockdown, but Eli could see that the automated systems were overwhelmed. Eli, Mara said, her voice serious now, what exactly do we do next? Just float here until help arrives. Eli shook his head. No, if we wait for help we could be trapped. We need to get inside the station. We need to find a safe point and figure out what the Zeathians are after. Mara raised an eyebrow. Inside? You mean back into the danger? Eli nodded. I know it sounds crazy, but if we just hide, we're vulnerable. I'd rather take the risk and control our path. Mara considered for a moment. You do have a point. Humans survive because we take risks, but we calculate them. I think I can help. Eli felt a small spark of relief. Having her expertise could be crucial. Together, they were stronger than apart. The pod adjusted its trajectory and glided toward the station. Using the docking thrusters, Eli managed to align the small craft with a maintenance hatch near the outer ring. The hatch was designed for emergency access, a perfect entry point that few invaders would think to check. Ready? Eli asked. Mara nodded, gripping the pod's interior rails. Let's do this. They opened the hatch and crawled into the station's maintenance corridors. The walls were narrow and metallic, lined with glowing conduits and pipes. The distant echoes of alarms and the occasional thrum of machinery filled the silence. For the first time in the evening, they were alone, not just in space, but in the danger that surrounded them. This place feels alive, Mara whispered, running a hand along the cold wall, like it's watching us. Station Avalon is smart, Eli said. It adapts, reacts, protects itself, and now it's protecting us if we don't trip any alarms. The corridors twisted and turned like a labyrinth. Eli led the way, trying to remember the schematics he had studied. Mara followed closely, her eyes scanning for any movement, any sign of Zeathian forces. Suddenly, the hum of the station shifted. Red warning lights blinked faster and a low vibration ran through the floor. Eli froze. They've arrived, he whispered. Through a narrow opening ahead, they saw their first Zeathian scout. The alien was tall and thin, with translucent skin revealing glowing veins. Its head swiveled unnaturally as it scanned the corridor, searching for intruders. It carried a weapon that emitted a faint, blue shimmer, deadly if fired. Eli's pulse quickened. He had faced many aliens before, but close encounters were always tense. Mara surprisingly stayed calm. She studied the scout, noting its posture, the way it moved. We need to distract it, Eli whispered. Do you have any ideas? Mara's eyes glinted. Yes, follow my lead. She picked up a small maintenance panel from the floor and twisted it. Sparks flew, and a section of the corridor lit up with flashing red and green lights. The Zeathian turned its head toward the noise, confused. Eli seized the moment. They darted through a side passage, hearts pounding, barely suppressing their laughter at the absurdity of the situation. That was impressive, Eli said, catching his breath. Mara shrugged. I've dealt with worse. Humans think we have all the answers, but aliens, they're predictable if you watch them closely. They moved deeper into the station, arriving at a control hub that monitored docking bays, life support, and station defense systems. Screens flickered with data, alarms flashing warnings of Zeathian forces at multiple entry points. Looks like they're after something, Eli said, scanning the displays. A human artifact, maybe, something critical to the station's operation. Mara frowned. If they get it, the station could collapse. We need to find it first. Their search led them through a maze of corridors, maintenance shafts, and storage rooms. Each turn brought new challenges, floating debris, malfunctioning doors, and the occasional Zeathian patrol. Eli marveled at Mara's skill. She was calm, focused, and strategic. He realized that in this moment she wasn't just his ex-girlfriend's mother. She was a capable ally, a problem solver, a force to be reckoned with. Finally, they reached a heavily secured door marked Gravity Control Core, authorized personnel only. Eli's gut told him this was what the Zeathians were after. "This is it," he whispered. "This must be the relic or device they want." Mara examined the security panel. "We'll need to bypass the lock. I can try, but it'll take a few minutes." Eli nodded. "I'll cover you. Keep an eye out for patrols." She set to work, her fingers moving swiftly across the controls. Sparks flickered as the panel hummed, lights shifting from red to yellow to green. "Almost there," Mara murmured. Eli kept watch, heart pounding as he scanned the corridors. A patrol passed by, a group of Zeathians moving with sharp precision. Eli held his breath. The patrol moved past without noticing them. He exhaled slowly, silently thanking Mara's skill. The lock clicked. Mara grinned. "We're in." Inside, the room was a marvel of human engineering. Tubes of glowing liquid ran through the walls, pulsing softly. In the center was a device, a small metallic cube humming with energy. It was the gravity manipulation core, a relic capable of altering gravitational fields. In the wrong hands, it could destroy entire sections of the station, or worse. Eli approached it carefully. "We need to get this out of here. The Zeathians can't touch it." Mara nodded. "Agreed, but the corridors will be dangerous on the way back. We need a plan." Eli thought quickly. "We'll use the maintenance shafts. They're narrow, but the patrols won't expect us to move the device through there. You handle navigation, I handle lifting." Mara smirked. "You always take the heavy lifting, don't you?" Eli laughed softly. "It's part of my charm." Together, they maneuvered the cube through the shafts, careful to avoid tripping sensors or alarms. It was slow work, and every step brought new challenges. Loose panels, exposed wiring, and the occasional patrol rounding the corner. Each time, Eli and Mara had to think fast, improvise, and rely on each other's instincts. At one point, Eli slipped, nearly dropping the cube. Mara's quick reflexes saved it just in time. "Watch it," she whispered, eyes wide. "Sorry," Eli muttered, cheeks burning. "I'm getting used to teamwork." Mara rolled her eyes but smiled. "Yes, well, humans are adaptable, I'll give you that." Finally, they reached the maintenance hatch where they had entered. Eli activated the pod's thrusters, carefully aligning it to receive the cube. Mara guided the placement with precision, and together they secured the device inside. Eli sat back, breathing heavily. "Well, that was exciting," Mara laughed softly. "Exciting, that was terrifying." "And yet," Eli said, smiling, "we survived together." Mara looked at him, her expression softening. "Yes, together." For a brief moment, the danger faded, replaced by a quiet sense of accomplishment. Eli realized that this night, which had begun with a ridiculous proposal and awkward conversation, had turned into something far more meaningful. They had faced danger, relied on each other, and come out stronger. Eli couldn't help but joke, despite the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. "So, about that proposal." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Really? After all this?" "Maybe next time," Eli said with a grin. "After the next alien attack." Mara laughed, shaking her head. "Humans and your strange sense of timing." The pod activated, drifting away from the station. Outside, the stars sparkled, distant suns casting light across the void. For the first time in years, Eli felt a sense of clarity. He had found a surprising ally, a new respect for someone he thought he knew, and a renewed confidence in human ingenuity. As they floated silently, side by side, Eli thought to himself, the universe was dangerous, unpredictable, and enormous, but humans could survive, adapt, and even thrive. And tonight he had proof. The pod floated silently through the dark expanse of space, carrying Eli Vance, Mara Winters, and the gravity manipulation core. The stars outside glittered like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Inside the pod, both humans were tense but alert, minds racing with the knowledge that the Zeathians were still active on Station Avalon. "Do you think they'll give up?" Mara asked, her voice calm but serious. Eli shook his head. "No chance. Zeathians don't give up. They see something they want and they take it. That's how they operate." Mara frowned. "Then we need to stop them before they even try." Eli nodded. "Agreed. But first we need to understand the station. If we know its layout, we can anticipate their moves." The pod docked at a secure maintenance bay near the station's core, where gravity control and life support systems converged. Eli and Mara carefully exited the pod, the metallic corridor walls humming softly beneath their feet. Every step felt heavy with tension. The gravity manipulation core, small but powerful, was secured between them. Its hum filled the corridor with an almost musical tone, a reminder of the danger it could unleash if mishandled. "This is it," Eli said quietly. "The heart of the station." Mara looked around, her eyes scanning every conduit, panel, and shadow. "It's more complex than I imagined. The energy flow here, it's incredible." Eli grinned. "Humans built it to last. That's why the Zeathians want it. If they control this core, they could manipulate gravity anywhere in the station. Imagine walls turning into floors, ceilings collapsing, entire sections floating away into space." Mara's eyes widened. "We can't let that happen." Eli led the way deeper into the heart of the station, toward the control chamber that housed the gravity manipulation core's operational interface. The corridors twisted and branched like a maze, but Mara's careful observations helped them avoid security sensors and potential traps. As they approached the chamber, the station's artificial lighting flickered, then stabilized. Eli frowned. "That's not normal. Something is interfering with the systems." Mara's brow furrowed. "Zeathians, they must be using some kind of electronic disruption." They paused at a junction, listening. The soft hum of machinery was punctuated by distant footsteps, alien footsteps. Tall, thin figures with translucent skin moved with sharp precision, scanning the area for intruders. Eli and Mara ducked behind a support column. "They're close," Eli whispered. "We need a plan." Mara glanced at the core, its hum steady and reassuring. "We can use it against them. If we manipulate gravity strategically, we can trap them or slow them down." Eli raised an eyebrow. "You're serious?" "Absolutely," Mara said. "It's risky, but it might be our only chance." Eli nodded. "Okay, let's do it." They moved into the control chamber, a large room filled with glowing consoles, holographic displays, and the central pedestal where the gravity manipulation core sat. The hum of the device was stronger here, vibrating through the floor. Mara approached the main console, her fingers flying over the holographic controls. "Give me a minute," she said. "I need to reroute the energy flow to create a localized gravity field." Eli stood guard, watching the entrance. He could hear the Zeathians moving in the corridors, their steps sharp and methodical. "Hurry," he whispered. "They won't be far." Mara worked quickly, sweat beading on her forehead. "Almost there." The first Zeathian patrol entered the chamber, weapons raised. Eli reacted instinctively, activating a nearby console to create a temporary shield, just enough to block the aliens' line of fire. The patrol froze, confused by the sudden shift in gravity. Mara pressed the final command and the core hummed louder. A gravity pulse radiated outward, pinning the Zeathians to the floor as if invisible hands held them in place. Eli grinned. "Nice work." Mara allowed herself a small smile but didn't relax. "We're not done yet. More are coming." Sure enough, the sound of multiple footsteps echoed through the corridors. Eli and Mara moved quickly, using the gravity pulses to slow the approaching enemies. The aliens struggled to move, their weapons clattering against the floor. Eli couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humans were clever, adaptable, and relentless. "Let's push them back," Eli shouted, grabbing Mara's hand. "We can do this together," Mara nodded, and together they activated another pulse. The Zeathians were forced backward, unable to resist the shifting gravity. Some collided with walls, while others were suspended midair for a brief, disorienting moment. Eli laughed, the tension breaking slightly. "We're unstoppable." Mara rolled her eyes, but her lips curved into a grin. "Don't get cocky." They moved deeper into the chamber, following the energy readings on the consoles. The core's hum guided them to a secondary control point, where the Zeathians had already begun attempting a forced override. Eli and Mara exchanged a glance. They needed to stop this now. Mara approached the secondary panel, analyzing the alien code. "I can shut down their access, but it'll take focus. Keep them distracted." Eli nodded. He grabbed a nearby metal rod, swinging it to create sparks and noise. The Zeathians were drawn to the disturbance, giving Mara the time she needed. Fingers flying over the holographic interface, she rerouted the energy flow and locked the core systems. "Done!" she exclaimed. The Zeathians froze, their override attempts failing. Eli activated another gravity pulse, sending them tumbling helplessly to the floor. They roared in frustration, then retreated, knowing they had been outsmarted. Eli exhaled, relief washing over him. "We did it." Mara turned to him, a faint smile on her lips. "Yes, but we can't relax yet. They'll regroup." Eli nodded. "True, but for now we've won this round." They moved to the core, securing it in a reinforced container. The device hummed softly, as if acknowledging their protection. Mara ran a diagnostic, ensuring it was stable. "You know," Eli said, leaning against a console, "I never thought I'd be fighting aliens and saving a space station with my ex-girlfriend's mom." Mara raised an eyebrow. "And yet here we are. Humans are unpredictable, aren't they?" "Indeed," Eli said with a grin. "But adaptable, clever, and surprisingly good in a crisis." Mara smiled faintly, a hint of admiration in her eyes. "I suppose I underestimated you." Eli laughed. "And I underestimated you too. You're amazing." For a moment the tension eased. The heart of the station was secure, the core protected, and the Zeathians temporarily repelled. They had survived a dangerous confrontation, relying on their intelligence, quick thinking, and teamwork. Mara looked at Eli. "You know, for someone who proposed to me as a joke, you've turned out to be a valuable ally." Eli chuckled. "Maybe proposals bring out hidden talents." Mara laughed softly. "Or maybe humans are just adaptable in ways we can't always predict." Eli nodded. "That's true. And tonight we've proven it." They spent a few moments in silence, listening to the core's steady hum. The danger was not entirely over, but for now they had control. The station was safe, and the universe had reminded them of humanity's strength, intelligence, and courage. Outside, stars shimmered, distant suns casting light across the void. Inside, two humans shared a quiet moment of victory, realizing that teamwork, ingenuity, and trust were as important as bravery. And for Eli, it was more than just a mission. It was a chance to see Mara in a new light, not just as his ex-girlfriend's mother, but as a strong, intelligent, and resourceful partner in adventure. As they prepared to move the core to a more secure location, Eli glanced at Mara and said with a grin, "So, about that proposal." Mara raised an eyebrow, a faint smile playing on her lips. "You really don't know when to quit, do you?" "Never," Eli replied, laughter in his voice. "But maybe, next time I'll pick a safer setting." Mara shook her head, still smiling. "Perhaps. But then again, a little danger makes life interesting." Eli nodded. The stars outside seemed to agree, shining brightly over the endless possibilities of the universe. The gravity manipulation core was secured in the reinforced pod, its steady hum a reminder of both power and danger. Eli Vance and Mara Winters moved cautiously through the heart of Station Avalon, alert to every sound, every shadow. Outside, Stars sparkled like scattered gems against the void, but inside, tension hung thick in the metallic corridors. "Do you think they've given up?" Mara asked, her voice calm but wary. Eli shook his head. "No chance. Zeathians don't give up. They want that core and they'll come back with more force." Mara's brow furrowed. "Then we need to be ready. The station itself might be our best ally if we play this right." Eli nodded. "Agreed. Let's get to the central control room. From there, we can monitor their movements, predict their approach, and, if necessary, use the station's defenses against them." The corridors were eerily quiet, a contrast to the chaos that had erupted hours before. Every step echoed through the metal walls, and the faint vibration of the core reminded them of the stakes. They reached a junction leading to the central control room, but before they could proceed, a sudden alarm blared, red lights flashing across the walls. "Looks like they've detected us," Eli said. "Get ready." Mara nodded, her fingers brushing over the core's container. "We can do this. We just need strategy, focus, and courage." Eli grinned. "That's what humans are best at after all." As they approached the control room, a squad of Zeathians appeared from a side corridor, their weapons glowing faintly. The aliens moved swiftly, their eyes locked on the core. Eli and Mara ducked behind a structural column, assessing the situation. "We can't fight them head-on," Mara whispered. "Too many, but maybe we don't have to." Eli raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Mara pointed to the control panels along the corridor. "We can manipulate the station's gravity, push them back, slow them down, even trap them temporarily. It'll take timing, but we can use their aggression against them." Eli nodded. "All right. Let's show them what humans can do." The first Zeathian advanced, scanning for movement. Mara activated a gravity pulse through the core, creating a sudden shift in the corridor's floor. The alien stumbled, struggling to maintain balance. Eli used the distraction to throw a metallic rod, knocking another patrol member off course. "Nice work," Eli shouted. Mara smirked. "Keep it up. Timing is everything." They moved together, each pulse of the core carefully calculated. Gravity shifted, floors tilted, and walls became temporary barriers. The Zeathians struggled against forces they didn't understand, their precise movements disrupted by human ingenuity. Eli couldn't help but feel proud. Humans had survived countless challenges, and here they were, proving themselves again. "Another group coming," Eli shouted, spotting more aliens rounding a corner. Mara's eyes flicked to a secondary control panel. "We can redirect energy to create a localized gravity vortex. It'll slow them down, give us an advantage." Eli nodded and activated the secondary console. The corridor ahead twisted under an invisible force, Zeathians stumbling as they tried to advance. Eli and Mara moved swiftly, taking advantage of every opportunity the station provided. As they reached the central control room, the situation escalated. The Zeathians, frustrated and cornered, unleashed a more aggressive attack, firing energy pulses that shook the walls. Eli and Mara ducked, using the core to shield themselves and redirect the attacks. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the room seemed to tremble with each blast. "We need to end this now," Eli shouted. Mara nodded. "Agreed. If we can trap them in a gravity field near the station's hull, they'll be forced to retreat or be ejected into space." Eli's grin returned. "Perfect. Let's do it." Together, they activated the core's maximum output. The corridor and control room warped as gravity shifted violently, pinning the Zeathians in place. Some struggled to move, others were lifted off the floor entirely, suspended helplessly. Eli and Mara moved with precision, guiding the energy to contain the intruders without harming the station itself. "You're amazing," Eli said, ducking as a burst of energy pulsed past. Mara smiled faintly, focusing on the core. "Humans are adaptable, and so are you." The Zeathians roared in frustration, their advanced technology rendered useless against the unexpected tactics. They fought desperately, but the gravity manipulations disrupted their coordination. One by one, they were forced to retreat, slipping and tumbling down corridors, unable to resist the controlled chaos the humans created. Eli and Mara watched, catching their breath, as the last of the intruders struggled to escape. Finally, silence fell. The station's system stabilized and the red lights dimmed to normal operational levels. "We did it," Eli said, relief washing over him. "The station is safe for now." Mara nodded, still focused on the core. "Yes, but we can't assume they won't return. We need to secure it in a more permanent location." Eli followed her to the reinforced containment bay, where the core was stored in a specially designed shield. Sensors scanned the area, ensuring stability and security. Mara ran a diagnostic, confirming that all systems were operational and no Zeathians remained undetected. "You know," Eli said, finally allowing himself to relax, "I never thought I'd be saving a space station with my ex-girlfriend's mom as my partner in crime." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Partner in crime, is that what humans call teamwork?" "Exactly," Eli replied with a grin, "and you're excellent at it." Mara allowed herself a small smile, the tension easing from her shoulders. "You're not bad yourself, Eli." "I suppose humans are more capable than I gave them credit for." Eli chuckled. "Understatement of the year. But hey, we proved it tonight, didn't we?" Mara nodded. "We did, and we survived, which counts for a lot." The gravity core hummed softly, a calm counterpoint to the chaos of earlier moments. Eli looked at Mara, realizing that this night had changed something. He saw her not as his ex-girlfriend's mother, but as a strong, intelligent, and resourceful ally, a person whose courage matched his own. "You know, for someone who joked about marrying me earlier tonight," Mara said, a faint smile on her lips, "you turned out to be quite reliable in a crisis." Eli laughed softly. "Maybe proposals bring out hidden talents." Mara shook her head, smiling. "Or maybe humans are just adaptable in ways we can't always predict." Eli nodded. "That's true, and tonight we've shown it." The station's lights returned to normal, systems humming steadily, the gravity core safe and operational. Outside, the stars continued to shine, distant suns casting light across the void. Inside, Eli and Mara shared a quiet moment of victory, realizing that ingenuity, teamwork, and trust were as important as bravery. Eli glanced at Mara, a playful grin on his face. "So about that proposal." Mara raised an eyebrow, amused. "You really don't know when to quit, do you?" "Never," Eli replied. "But maybe next time I'll pick a safer setting." Mara shook her head, still smiling. "Perhaps, but then again, a little danger makes life interesting." Eli nodded, feeling a sense of clarity he hadn't felt in years. Humans were clever, adaptable, and resilient. They could face impossible odds, outthink enemies, and survive challenges that seemed insurmountable. And tonight, he had proof that when humans worked together, nothing could stop them. As they prepared to move the core to a permanent, secure location, Eli realized that the night had been more than an adventure. It had been a test of ingenuity, courage, and trust. And in Mara, he had found a partner who embodied all three. For Eli, the universe was dangerous, unpredictable, and vast, but humans, with their cleverness, adaptability, and determination, could thrive anywhere. And as he glanced at Mara, he knew they were ready for whatever the cosmos would throw at them next. The reinforced pod carrying the gravity manipulation core drifted through the outer section of Station Avalon, its engines humming softly. Eli Vance and Mara Winters stood side by side, scanning the corridor ahead. The station, though scarred from the recent skirmishes, had stabilized. Yet both humans knew that the Zeathians were persistent. They would not give up so easily. "We need to secure the core in the station's central vault," Mara said, her voice calm but firm. "It's the safest place. Even if the Zeathians come back, they won't get near it." Eli nodded. "Agreed. Let's move." The corridor ahead was quiet, almost eerily so. The earlier alarms had faded, replaced by the soft hum of life support and distant machinery. Outside, the stars sparkled, casting a faint light into the station's metallic walls. Every step felt significant, every moment charged with anticipation. "Do you ever get used to this?" Mara asked, adjusting her grip on the core container. "Being hunted in space?" Eli shrugged. "Not really, but humans survive because we adapt, and we always find a way." Mara glanced at him, a faint smile on her lips. "I've seen that tonight." "I can't deny it. You're resourceful," Eli chuckled. "Thanks. Coming from you, that means a lot." They moved cautiously, rounding corners and checking each junction. Then, as they approached the central vault, the station shuddered. Red lights flashed briefly and a low, rumbling sound echoed through the halls. "The Zeathians," Eli said immediately. "They're making another attempt." Mara's eyes narrowed. "We need a plan. We can't just fight them head-on again." Eli's mind raced. The previous encounters had relied on quick thinking, improvisation, and the core's gravity pulses. But this time, the stakes were higher. They needed a decisive victory. "Let's use the station itself," Eli said. "Gravity manipulation worked last time, but we can amplify it. We can trap them in the maintenance corridors, cut off their advance, and force a retreat." Mara nodded, understanding immediately. "I can interface with the station's control systems. We'll need to coordinate precisely." Eli grinned. "Good. Let's show them human ingenuity." They reached the control interface near the vault. Mara connected the core to the station's main systems, her fingers moving over holographic controls. Lights flickered, displays shifted, and the soft hum of the core intensified. "Ready?" Mara asked. Eli nodded. "Let's do it." The Zeathians appeared in the corridor outside the vault, advancing in formation. Their translucent bodies reflected the red warning lights, their weapons glowing faintly. But as they stepped closer, gravity shifted violently. The floor tilted, walls pressed inward, and some aliens were pinned against the ceiling as if invisible hands held them there. Eli and Mara moved with precision, activating pulses that guided the Zeathians into a trap, a loop of corridors where the gravity could be controlled to contain them. The aliens struggled, unable to advance or retreat. Their coordination collapsed under the unpredictable forces, leaving them trapped. "This is it," Eli shouted. "Keep it steady." Mara's fingers danced over the controls, directing gravity shifts to maintain the trap. The Zeathians roared in frustration, their attempts to break free failing repeatedly. Every time they tried to move forward, they were pushed back, rotated, or suspended midair. Eli laughed, adrenaline mixing with relief. They underestimated humans. Classic mistake. Mara allowed herself a small smile. "Yes, but the station is helping. We just need to keep control until they give up." Minutes passed, each one tense and exhausting. The Zeathians struggled, then paused, realizing their efforts were futile. One by one, they began to retreat, their movements disorganized and frantic. Gravity shifts forced them toward the maintenance exit, away from the core and the central vault. Finally, silence returned. The station's system stabilized and the red alarm lights faded to normal. Eli and Mara exhaled, the tension melting away in a wave of relief. "We did it," Eli said quietly. "The station is safe." Mara nodded, running a final diagnostic on the core. "Yes, and the Zeathians won't be able to reach it anytime soon. We've won tonight." Eli leaned against the vault wall, smiling. "You know, for someone I jokingly proposed to earlier tonight, you've been an amazing partner in this adventure." Mara raised an eyebrow, amused. "Partner in adventure? Is that what humans call teamwork?" "Exactly," Eli replied with a grin. "And you've been excellent at it." Mara's expression softened. "I suppose I underestimated you. Not just humans, but you." Eli chuckled. "Thanks, and I underestimated you too. You're brilliant, Mara. Calm, smart, courageous, and somehow able to make even a disaster feel manageable." She laughed softly. "You exaggerate, but thank you." For a moment, they stood side by side, listening to the soft hum of the core and the stable systems of the station. The danger had passed and the universe seemed quiet and calm. Yet the adventure had left a mark. They had faced a deadly threat together, relying on trust, intelligence, and ingenuity. "You know," Eli said, breaking the comfortable silence, "maybe my proposal wasn't such a bad idea after all." Mara raised an eyebrow, curiosity and amusement in her eyes. "Really? After all this chaos?" "Yes," Eli replied with a grin. "Not because it's romantic, but because sometimes humans do the unexpected. We adapt, we survive, and we find strength in partnership. And tonight you proved that more than anyone else." Mara shook her head, smiling. "You really have a way with words, Eli. I'll give you that." Eli laughed softly. "So, your answer," Mara paused, then laughed as well. "I'll say yes, but only because I know you're capable of surviving the impossible, and apparently humans are full of surprises." Eli's grin widened. "Fair enough, I'll take it." Outside the vault, the station hummed peacefully, lights steady, systems functional. The stars stretched infinitely, a reminder of the vastness of space and the small but remarkable place humans occupied within it. Eli and Mara looked out at the view, a shared sense of triumph and camaraderie between them. "You know," Mara said, her voice quiet but warm, "this night it's shown me something. Humans can do incredible things. Clever, resourceful, brave, and sometimes ridiculous. I think I understand why humanity survives." Eli nodded. "And now you've experienced it firsthand." They moved to a nearby observation deck, the glass revealing the swirling colors of distant nebulae. For a moment the universe seemed vast and infinite, yet manageable because of human ingenuity and teamwork. Eli felt a sense of hope, a clarity he hadn't experienced in years. Mara leaned slightly against the railing, smiling. "It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Facing danger and surviving, and realizing that people you underestimated can become your greatest allies." "Yes," Eli agreed. "It's what humans do. We adapt, we fight, we survive, and we find partners who make the impossible possible." Mara glanced at him, her expression softening. "Perhaps that's what makes life interesting. Not the danger, not the chaos, but the people we meet along the way." Eli smiled. "Exactly, and tonight I've met someone remarkable." Mara laughed lightly. "Careful, Eli. You might make humans sound perfect." Eli grinned. "Maybe we are when we work together." The gravity manipulation core continued to hum softly, secure in its reinforced container. Station Avalon, though scarred, was alive and functioning. The Zeathians had been defeated, temporarily at least, and the humans had proven once more that cleverness, courage, and trust could overcome any threat. As they stood together, Eli felt a sense of closure and new beginnings. The night had begun with a ridiculous proposal and a chance encounter, but it had ended with victory, mutual respect, and a bond forged in the crucible of danger. Mara looked at him, her eyes reflecting both amusement and admiration. "So, what now, Eli?" He smiled, glancing at the stars. "Now, we keep moving forward, protect what matters, survive the next challenge, and maybe enjoy the ride." Mara nodded. "I like that plan, and who knows, perhaps humans and their strange ways will surprise us again." Eli laughed softly. "They always do." Outside, the universe stretched endlessly, but inside Station Avalon, two humans stood side by side, victorious, hopeful, and ready for whatever came next. They had faced danger, outsmarted enemies, and proven the value of courage, ingenuity, and partnership. And for Eli, Mara, and humanity itself, the future looked bright, filled with adventure, possibility, and the unyielding spirit of survival that made humans exceptional.